Well, hello, how is everyone? I hope you're all well as we now hit Friday. That's it, baby, TFI Friday. And what a week it's been. What a week it's been. But despite how difficult it's been, you all look absolutely amazing. Well done. Anyway, what do you get if you cross some rich folk with an idiot idea and not the real thought in terms of safety, precautionary measures? You know, there's things missing. Say, I'll tell you what you find. What you end up with. You end up with what we see with this Titan sub situation. Now, I was in a live over on the Pascal show. Not actually, I mean in the comments, not actually on the screen. I seldom grace screens on other channels, but if I was going to, he would certainly be one I would. So if you're not subscribed, head over there and say hello to Mr. Pascal. But look, I said this. The likelihood is this is a catastrophic implosion event, because you think this vehicle is lowered into the water and then it starts to descend towards the Titanic. The Titanic, the ship that just keeps on giving. And it lowers, and the lower it goes, the more pressure that is put on this tin can. And what do we know about this tin can? We know that there was worries and concerns from people regarding the safety aspects of this. We've seen pictures of these controllers that look a little bit like old PlayStation remotes. What I will say is that's not uncommon. That's not really pointing in the direction that because it had a PlayStation controller to control it, it failed. It's just that when you build these kind of things, you have to have a controller, and sometimes they will look or be based on that of something else. I think there was a bigger problem than the controller, let's put it that way. So look, this starts to go down, and the further it goes down, the more pressure that's put on it. More pressure. And I believe at the depth with which they lost communication with topside, you were looking at pressure somewhere around 3,000 tons per square inch. I think that calculation is right without looking at notes, because I've got nothing to look at notes on today as I'm in the process of rebuilding the studio. So look, yeah. So what then happens is something goes wrong. At that depth, something goes wrong. And there is a little bit of saving grace, I suppose, because at the time when which there is a catastrophic failure, and that means that something in that sub goes tits up. Bang. Lights out. And it's as quick as that. The brain is very, very unlikely to have even registered that there was a problem before it was good night Vienna. But that's not the most, how can I say, that's not the strangest thing about this, the fact that there was a catastrophic failure, because I think, and anybody who is in that realm of business, they knew that this was going to happen at some point. You can't keep pushing the boundaries of luck continuously without one day running out of luck. And, you know, that's what you see. You hear specialists talk about this, you know, this going down to the Titanic. The Titanic at the end of the day is 12,500 meters down. That's over 2 miles straight down. Imagine 2 miles straight down. And, you know, that's where she sits. And, you know, they say that it's as dangerous, albeit it's a different thing, but it's as dangerous going down to those depths of the ocean as it is going up that high into space. The things that you're up against, the things that can go wrong, and look how much money they spend on crafts that go up. So you can't expect to build a craft that goes down at a fraction of the cost and expect there never to be an issue. But this is what you get when you cross rich people who have got the money and they just want to tick something off a bucket list, and they don't fully understand the dangers that's involved. Now, I'm sure there's going to be lawsuits, there's going to be some questions. You know, one of the people who was on that craft was a personal friend of the king of this country, Mr. Charles, Mr. King Charles. He's not going to be best pleased, is he? And I'm sure that he will want to look into things. But this is the problem. It would appear that not only did this happen, and you take into consideration all of the things that was wrong with that sub, and the things that probably weren't done, the safety precautions that weren't taken, and the fact that they were going on a journey that was always going to fail at some point, it would appear the Coast Guard knew it had already failed, even when they were continuing to search. And what do I mean by that? It would appear that the Navy, now the Navy obviously have the ability to monitor what is happening under the water. Of course they do. They've got technology, and, you know, everybody's spying on everyone, aren't they? And the water is the thing that separates most of these countries from one another. It's the only thing between them and us. It's like you're in your own castles and the sea be thou moat, if you like. And that's how they get across anyway. So they have picked up an implosion. This is what they're saying. So the Navy, on their equipment, they hear an implosion, and they relay that information to the person who's in charge, the Coast Guard commander who is commanding the search. And it would appear that the sound was pretty much heard, detected, around the exact time that communications went out on the Titan. So, ergo, they knew what had happened, but they continued to search. They continued to say about the oxygen, how much oxygen they got left, and we must get this equipment, they must get that equipment. At no point did they tell the general public that this is what was happening. Some people have said, well, why didn't the Navy come out and say anything? Well, that's not the Navy's job to notify the public and those involved. The Navy done right. They told the person, chain of command, this is the person who needs to know. We're giving you the information. We detected with our equipment that there was an implosion around this time, yada, yada, yada. And yeah. So what I'd like to know is, when you are the commander of this operation and you've been given that information, what then makes you withhold that information from the public? Is it because you don't trust their data? Could just be that you're thinking, do you know what, we need to keep searching, that could be something else, we're going to keep going and we're going to use all these resources, which all that really did was prove that nobody really wants to help anyone, and half of them don't know their arse from their elbows. They were still, the stuff they were bringing in was leaving it so close to the fucking nail that if they were relying on the oxygen time frame, half of it wouldn't have got there in time anyway, because they hadn't even considered how long it would have taken them to get the damn thing back up to the surface. So there just didn't seem to be any real get up and go, get up and go. And I now wonder whether that's why there wasn't. Their get up and go had got up and fucked off because they already know it was a pointless venture. But were they just simply not telling people? They already knew what was going on because they wanted to hide the fact that the Navy had equipment, they had the ability to detect what they detected. Seems a stretch, doesn't it? Seems a stretch, but I cannot for the life of me work out why the Coast Guard wouldn't have notified people that, look, this is what we've been told. The Navy have told us that they detected an implosion, and this is what we believe happened. It made the most sense even for the people who didn't have that information, that that was always going to be the case. To be at that depth, going down, and you think to yourself, for a start, you have to calculate at how deep they were and at what speed on the descent that was. For me, when I think about it, it seemed like it was going too quick. So it seemed to me like the descent it took was happening too quickly. And I could be wrong, I'm not an expert. I can swim, but I don't ride, swim submarines. I don't pilot submarines, that sounds better, pilot. Feel a bit more like Maverick from Top Gun now. But let me know what you think. Obviously, it's an absolute tragedy. There was loss of lives, and this, you know what I mean? It's horrendous. It is horrendous. There's a young boy on there who'd gone on there with his father, and what for? And not only that, the fact that it is such a tragedy, they did die. They didn't have to, because there was things that should have been done and things that shouldn't be doing. And the question is now, should people keep continuing to go down to this fucking underwater graveyard? And if it is just going to keep making people do this, then is there an argument to have if it's even possible, to have the thing lifted? To have it removed, so no more loss of life. There isn't that want to go down there. But like I say, the one thing that, on top of all the tragedy and that I want to leave you with and to think about, everybody who died on there as a passenger, they paid $250,000 to do it. I'll pay for some stupid things, but that takes a fucking cake. I'll catch you all on the next one.